Everyone. My name is Rushi Gajjar, and currently I am working as an assistant professor in Ahmedabad Physiotherapy College. Our today's webinar is on virtual awareness program about the Down syndrome. With us, we have well-known practicing pediatrician and psychologist, Dr. Meena Vaidya. She is practicing since 1991. She is passionate about the working with children with special needs. She is blogger, a counselor, and a convener of Down Syndrome Welfare Club, Gujarat. She has her own website where she guiding the parents and also present more than 150 seminars, workshop, lecture, and counseling sessions for the spreading awareness to Down syndrome. Since 2019, Madam is connected with Vishalvind Foundation. The goal of foundation is to spread awareness about the Down syndrome among the various stakeholders like physiotherapists, doctors, parents, and students, and so on. The prime objective of the Vishalvind Foundation is to work for the victim of road traffic accident. The future goal of this foundation is to work and spread awareness related to different elements such as ADHD, autism, thalassemia, and so on. So now, I welcome Madam from behalf of whole Parul University, and with this, I request Madam to start this wonderful and informative webinar. So over to you, Madam, please.
Thank you, Rishiji, and hello everyone. Good afternoon. And I came to know that today we have a diverse audience. Is it correct, Mr. Rushi? We have medical practitioners as well with us today.
Yes, madam. We have a different varieties of students here, so this information can help us a lot.
Okay. So I have created the entire presentation in a way that it would be helpful to each and everyone, whether the person is a medical practitioner, a parent, a paramedical person, or a therapist. So I think directly I will move to my presentation because it's a long presentation and you need to know so many things. So I will start sharing. So hello everyone, I am a BJite and I completed my master's in pediatrics in 91, and then for more than 20 years I have focused myself on Down syndrome, persons with Down syndrome and their parents. So we will start with a saying that every life is a pile of good things and bad things, including me and you. Every life is a pile of good things and bad things. The good things don't always soften the bad, but vice versa, the bad things don't necessarily spoil the good things and make them unimportant. So first of all, before knowing Down syndrome, before going into Down syndrome is a part of disability sector. So before going into putting our first step into disability sector, we need to develop our sight, we need to develop our brain, we need to inculcate ourselves to see the person first and not the ability or disability. So this is what I understood through this saying, that every life is a pile of good thing and bad thing. So let's start seeing the good in every life and putting the person first and then the ability or disability. So we all need to know, first we need to know Down syndrome. As we have medical practitioners as well, so I would like to give a few details about what is Down syndrome and why it happens. So as we all know, we have 23 pairs of chromosome in each cell we possess in our body. The last pair, 23rd pair, decides our sex, gender, and rest 22 chromosomes are in pair. Now what happens in Down syndrome, that instead of a pair, there are 3 copies of chromosome in 21 number, and so it is known as trisomy 21 as well. This happens because of non-disjunction, and till date the medical fraternity has failed to know the reason that why non-disjunction happens. But it happens. Down syndrome per se is not a disease, but it is associated with few medical conditions that we will see later on. First, let's see that how you can identify. When we were studying MBBS, when we were doing our MBBS, it was a spot diagnosis case, because the moment you look at the child, the moment you look at a teen with Down syndrome, the moment you look at an adult with Down syndrome, you can identify that yes, this person must be having Down syndrome. So how we can identify just by a sight? So they have broad flat face, floppy, they are floppy as babies, they are floppy babies. They have excess skin at the nape of the neck, flattened nose, upward slanting eyes, small ears, and short limbs, single palmar crease, low set ears, small mouth, thick tongue, high arch palate, etc. So these are the apparent features through which, just by looking at the child, teen, or adult, you can identify. Then per se, as I said, per se Down syndrome is not a disease, but it is associated with certain medical problems like congenital heart diseases, like hearing issues, vision issues, congenital cataract, errors of refraction, then a frequent ear infection, thyroid related issues, then gastrointestinal atrasias. There might not be a connection between duodenum and stomach. There might not be connection between esophagus and stomach. So these are certain associated medical problems. The percentage of having these medical issues are a bit higher with children with Down syndrome than the typical population. Then occurrence of seizures, hematological problems are also a bit higher than the typical population. Less commonly, we can see, it's very rare, but chances of a child with Down syndrome having celiac disease, atlantoaxial instability, autism, and Hirschsprung disease are a bit higher. Now, why I am saying this? If you are a medical practitioner, you need to know this, because then and then you will be able to give a medical checklist to parents when parents approaches you. If you are not a medical practitioner, but you are a therapist, then also you need to know about the associated medical conditions, because if the child is having some congenital heart disease, if the child has been operated for the same, or if the child, if you are giving some instructions and if you think that the child is not following, you might think that the child is not well developed, but the problem might be with the hearing. If you are playing with the child, if you ask the child to catch and throw, if you are playing catch and throw, or you are playing with some ALM, active learning material, and if you feel that child is not able to position the things you have given rightly, child may have issues with vision. So if the child is having some heart diseases, you have to restrict your physiotherapies. If child is not responding well, you need to keep the other associated medical conditions in mind so that you can plan the therapy better. If you are a medical practitioner, you can give the medical checklist properly. Now, what the extra chromosome brings with it. So the extra chromosome results in 2 delayed milestones, and milestones means, I'll explain in my later slides. Milestones can be motor milestones. Motor milestones means achieving the sitting, standing, running, jumping, doing day-to-day activities, buttoning, zipping, catching, throwing. So these are all motor skills, and achieving motor skills comes under milestones. Then achieving speech, ability to communicate, usage of speech is also delayed, and that is language milestone. And social accomplishment, doing self-help skills, so delay in self-help skills. So these all the extra chromosome bring along delayed milestones, and the major reason we will come across that the major reason is hypotonic muscles, floppy muscles, and low muscle power. So let's see the rough comparison of milestones. Here is a rough comparison given between range of children with Down syndrome and a range of achieving milestones for a typical child. So you can see the start point. There is not much of a difference in start point, but the ending point are very, very delayed if you have a look at the range given for children with Down syndrome. So what does this mean? What does this mean? That yes, we so many times we hear, and if you are not very well aware, we often use the word mentally retarded child. So they are not retarded, they are slow learners, because they achieve each and every milestone they achieve, but they achieve a little later. So it's better to say that they are not retarded, but they are slow learners. They take time to learn. So till now, we went through that what happens. So it's trisomy 21. The extra chromosome, what does that extra chromosome bring along? The extra chromosome bring along delayed milestones. Milestones means motor milestones, language achievements, and social accomplishments. Why this happens? It happens because of the extra chromosome, and we will learn in detail later on. So till now, we saw the limitations of a child with Down syndrome. The limitations, what are the limitations? Now let's go through the strength of Down syndrome. We all grow at different pace, and Down syndrome grow with a little slower pace. So now let's know about their strength. They are highly trainable, they are educable, they are visual learner, and their visual memory is much better than the typical population. They are very high in receptive vocabulary. They gather information from the surrounding very well. They are keen observant. They can collect the information from surrounding very well, and then they try to communicate. They try to give back to the society. They have very high social quotient. They have very high emotional quotient. They enjoy monotony. We hate monotony, but persons with Down syndrome, they enjoy monotony. They do best in predictable schedule. They are copycats, and their minds can be programmed very well. They are persons with Down syndrome are very loving and caring. And I forgot to mention about the percentage. That every year around 30,000 babies with Down syndrome they take birth in India, and in spite of the Western countries are very ahead of us, in spite of being ahead of us, the occurrence is higher in developed countries. They go through various screening tests, they go through all the antenatal checkups. Then also the rate of birth of newborn babies with Down syndrome are higher in developed countries. And what does that mean? That means that the Almighty wants these children to be born on this Mother Earth, maybe to balance the happiness and love in the society. So what you should do first, whenever you come across with the parents of babies with Down syndrome, what you should do first? First, as a medical practitioner, as a therapist, you should congratulate the parents for the new arrival, because this very important part of parents' life, it suddenly gets deleted by a sentence that your baby is not normal. And this gives immense pain and agony to the parents. So as a therapist, as a medical practitioner, I request you, I want you to first congratulate the parents for the new arrival and then start counseling. So how would you counsel, and what would be your topic? How would you start? What would you say them? So if you are a medical practitioner, you will first provide them with a medical checklist. Immediately there are certain tests to the child should undergo immediately after birth. So you will provide the parents with a medical checklist that will include karyotyping to know the type of trisomy, type of Down syndrome, whether it is a pure trisomy, whether it is translocation, or it is mosaic pattern. More than 95% of cases, it is pure trisomy 21. In around 3 to 4%, it may be translocation, and 1% it's mosaic. So just to know the type of trisomy, then to rule out any congenital heart disease, you should advise for cardiac screening, then thyroid screening, then vision and hearing screening. And these are the complete blood count, and these are the tests to be repeated every 6 months for first 2 years of life, and then once every year. So provide with medical checklist, then explain early intervention program. Now what comes under early intervention program, we will see in coming slides. Then there are few parents, they are a bit worried and a bit hesitant to undergo the national immunization schedule. So being a therapist, being a medical practitioner, you should insist, you should encourage the parents to go through the national immunization schedule. So these are the few things you should advise parents. And then comes breastfeeding. Naturally, we all encourage breastfeeding for all the newborn babies, but when it's about baby with Down syndrome, very breastfeeding is very essential, because latching, the moment of latching, helps develop oromotor muscles, and skin to skin contact helps in neurotransmission. There is skin to skin connection which improves neurotransmission, that eventually will help the child to learn cognitive functions in a better way. Then next comes food time struggle. So you will come across, because moms are very particular about food. Even his daughter or son studying in college and residing at hostel, mom would always keep on asking about food. Moms are very concerned about food. And as children with Down syndrome, they have low muscle tone and poor muscle coordination. They will need mashed and semi-solid food for a longer time. So no problem, you can tell parents, you can tell mom that it's okay if child can't chew, if child can't swallow, it's okay to give mashed and semi-solid food for a longer time. Just make it sure that the whatever food you give, it should be nutritionally balanced. This is what you should advise as a medical practitioner, as a therapist, or as a known person. If someone is here who is not a professional and just attending the session, you can advise like this. So now we are coming to an end for medical practitioner. No, not actually an end. The initial role of a medical practitioner will be over. And we will shift to a therapist, physiotherapist. So any good physician can help, but the irony is we are not well aware about the strengths and limitation of a person with Down syndrome. So now I think the medical practitioner are at least they must have come to know a few things, that what are their limitations and what are their strengths, and we would focus on this strength and try to minimize the limitations by guiding, by providing different therapies, and by encouraging the parents. So now there will be a shift from doctor plus parent. So if you see my slide, I have mentioned doctor first and then parent, because in initial years, doctor will play a major role and doctor will keep on guiding and counseling parent. So doctor plus parent to now there will be a shift from parent. Parent would be the main person. Parents should know what are the things come under early intervention, how to go for it, how to inculcate the habits, how to incorporate the various type of therapies in routine life. So now parents' role would be major, provided therapist and doctor have explained them clearly, and therapist and doctor have simplified their job clearly. So now there would be a shift from doctor plus parent to parent mainly, then therapist, and then doctor. Doctor will remain with parent lifelong. So now we will see what early intervention program is all about. So early intervention program includes 5 things: physiotherapy, occupational therapy, oromotor exercises, sensory integration program, and foot arch. Physiotherapy means exercises of longer muscle, bigger muscles to achieve motor milestones. Sitting, neck support, sitting, crawling, standing with support, walking, standing without support, then walking, running, climbing, jumping, etc. So these all achieving a therapy that is focused on achieving motor milestones is known as physiotherapy. Occupational therapy is exercises of smaller muscles to help the child do the daily chores on his or her own, like buttoning, zipping, turning the page, holding block, throwing ball, catching ball, etc. So this is about smaller muscle exercises, writing skills. So this comes under occupational therapy. Then comes oromotor exercises, which will help the child to speak and to speak with clarity. So oromotor exercise includes the exercises of oral muscles, lips, tongue, and sensitizing the oral cavity. So that will include oromotor exercises. Now these 3 therapies, physiotherapy, occupational therapy, and oromotor exercises, these are done by almost all the therapists, and this is very popular, and you get n number of things online also. Internet also provides so many oromotor exercises, occupational exercises, and physiotherapy. But last 2 parts, sensory integration program and foot arch, they are not focused by many therapists and parents sincerely. So if we understand sensory integration, so what exactly sensory integration means? Since we learn through senses, and popularly we are aware about 5 senses, but in fact, there are 7 senses. So sense of sight, then olfactory, auditory, taste, and touch. These 5 senses we all know, but there are 2 more senses, and that is body balance and body awareness. Now, our senses are data collecting centers. We collect information through our senses. We see, we listen, we taste, we smell, we touch, we understand through our body. We collect data through our senses. Our brain analyze, evaluate, and decide and give command. So brain is a processing unit which processes the data collected from the environment through our senses, and then body executes. So body execute maybe through action, maybe verbally, maybe through gesture, but the job of body is to execute the processed data as per the command, as per the signals given by the brain. Now, sensory integration is very, very, very important part of training when we are talking about a child with Down syndrome. And as they have slow message system, they have slow messaging system, we will see in coming slide. They have slow messaging system. What happens that there is overloading at times, there is overloading of data, and there is short circuit. They can't decide. Brain can't analyze. There is one after the other, there are so many data, there is a piling of data, and the child becomes hypersensitive to that particular sense. Or maybe the reverse is also true. The brain does not register the signal, and child does not react. So knowing the sensory system, you can plan your therapy accordingly. Like a child is hypersensitive to movement. So the child keeps on jumping, child keeps on running, child keeps on rocking, child keeps on swinging. So this is the best time you can use to give any type of therapy. The child will learn the best when he is jumping, or the hyperkinesthetic child, you can use this hypersensitivity as learning opportunity. So knowing sensory integration, using senses to make the child learn certain things is a very integral part of therapy. And then foot arch. Many doctors and therapists, they deny putting foot arch, but when we are talking about a child with Down syndrome, foot arch is a must. It should be a constant wear because they have flat foot or they have a shallow foot arch, medial foot arch. So putting foot arch, the moment the child starts weight bearing, a therapist or a medical practitioner should advise foot arch. So any therapist would first focus on motor skills. So motor skills are widely divided into basic and recreational. Now we are going into the detail of the therapies, and it is equally important for a medical practitioner to know about a job of a therapist. So now we are focusing on a job of a therapist. When parents approach to a therapist, what are the first things a therapist should do? So just to make it very clear, motor skills are divided into 2 main parts. It's basic and recreational. Recreational is if you are athlete, if you play football, basketball, if you are a cricketer, swimmer, then the entire thing would be different. We will not talk about that. We will talk about the basic motor skills. So basic motor skills are again divided into 2, gross motor and fine motor. Gross motor skills, as I said, sitting, walking, climbing stairs and running and climbing and all. Fine motor skills are grasping, writing, typing, buttoning, etc. So now, why I am talking about motor skills too much? Maybe I have mentioned motor skills maybe till now 10 times. So the extra chromosome brings ligament laxity. Now there will be a big difference for a therapist treating, giving therapy, physiotherapy to a child with Down syndrome, and giving physiotherapy to somebody else which without a Down syndrome. Here the ligament laxity is very much, so the joints would be hypermobile. Joint mobility would be more. Now therapists would think that then where lies the problem? Because when somebody approaches a physiotherapist, your main focus, the therapist main focus would be increasing the range of movement. And here you are having a patient who is already having a wide range of movement because of ligament laxity. But because of ligament laxity, they can't wait, they can't hold their body, they can't bear their weight, and there are all chances of dislocation and subluxation. So the extra chromosome brings, one is ligament laxity, second is low muscle tone, for which we have to work. Then slow reaction time, as I said, they have poor slow neurotransmission. So taking of a signal reaching to brain, and again the command of brain reaching to the target is very slow. So the speed of movement is very slow. This everything difference in brain size. So we all know that our body balance is controlled by cerebellum, and they have smaller cerebellum, so they can't control their body, so body balance is poor. So all together results in poor postural control. And because of slow reaction time, even when they know that I am going to lose my control before brain recognizes and give command, the child has already fallen down. So these are the few things that extra chromosome brings with it. So focusing on motor skills would cover physiotherapy, occupational therapy, and oromotor exercises. So first set of therapists should focus first on motor skills. So that includes physiotherapy, occupational therapy, and oromotor exercises. Now next would be sensory. So sensory, as I already explained you under early intervention program, what we actually mean by sensory integration program. So 7 senses, and we will go through one video to understand the sensory integration program even better. So for a while, I will stop sharing this screen, and I will share one video. અવાજ સંભળાય છે? અવાજ નહીં સંભળાય?
ના મેડમ.
The audio was not there. Hello.
No madam. Hello. Am I
Then
audible?
how to?
Audio.
It was without audio.
Yes, madam.
Yes,
It was
ma'am.
without audio. But it's okay. On live might be Facebook. We can consider that way, or else just send to me. I can send directly to on the Facebook. No need to worry, madam.
Okay. So, is there any option to share sound as well like that? I don't know, because I use Zoom and don't know. Okay, chalo,
Okay.
let's move ahead. Okay, so that was the video about sensory integration, and I will share the video with someone, and you can put it where everybody can see. Right now, let's go through the do's and don'ts when you are treating a child with Down syndrome. Let's go through the do's and don'ts as a therapist. So do start as early as possible. These are few pointers I will go through first. Do start as early as possible. Do as per their pace. This is very, very important. We have gone through that they are slow learners. They will learn at their own pace. So don't rush, don't force, don't push them. Do believe in them. They can do wonders if you believe in them. Do involve parents, because ultimately parents have to be in charge. They have to repeat. They have to do things at home also. Spending time 30 minutes a day, maybe twice a week or thrice a week will not suffice. So do involve parents. Do repetition. Be patient. Do ask for associated medical conditions. I already explained why you need to ask for that. Do include all the aspect of early intervention program. It's easy. You can simultaneously do a sensory integration program with physiotherapy. You can simultaneously do occupational therapy with sensory integration program. You can create the sitting which gives them some texture. You can use a different textured ball when you are doing occupational therapy, you can give different texture blocks. So you can combine occupational therapy and sensory integration program. You can combine physiotherapy and sensory integration program. So include all the aspects of early intervention program. Then don't focus, this is very, very important. Please, all the medical practitioners and all the physiotherapists, please understand this very, very well, that usually the therapist focuses on achieving the milestones. Don't do that. Parents are also very much worried, बच्चा अभी तक बैठता नहीं है, चलता नहीं है, तो they are very much worried about achieving the motor milestones. Don't focus on achieving the motor milestones. Focus on building strength. Once the strength will be built, naturally, automatically, the child will start sitting or standing or walking or running. If you will rush achieving the motor milestones, there are all the chances that because they have weaker muscles, because they have lax ligaments, all the weight will fall on bones and joints, and there will be early degeneration of joints. Hump or scoliosis of kyphosis may develop. So don't focus on achieving the milestones, focus on building strength. Don't cross the midline. When you are, suppose these are lower limbs, don't cross the midline while doing passive exercises of limb, because this joint may get dislocated from hip. So don't cross the midline while doing passive exercises of limb. Don't allow to bear the body weight prematurely. I already explained why. Don't allow stretching, again, for the risk of getting the joint getting dislocated. Don't force, and don't give false promises. Don't ever tell parents that, oh, आपका बच्चा 6 महीने में बैठना सीख जाएगा, 6 महीने में चलना सीख जाएगा. Don't give false, true, any kind of promises, right? So these are few do's and don'ts a therapist need to follow. Then comes the overall, what should be your aim. So correct posture, proper foot position, as I explained, foot arch, and efficient walking pattern. So walking and running would be the ultimate thing we are focused on the child to achieve. So these are the building blocks for a therapist. So a therapist should start with sensory the whole program. If we put 1, 2, 3, 4, it's about sensory integration, then traditional strength and conditioning strengthening program, then comes NDT, a neurodevelopment therapy. Nowadays it's very popular, it's getting popular day after day. What it is, I will explain. And then PMT, perceptual motor therapy. So these are two therapies nowadays people are talking more about it. Those are simple things we have already gone through. We have already discussed those things. I will let you know in coming slides. So to start with traditional strength and conditioning program, the first thing would be tummy time. Because for a newborn baby, we will start with passive exercises and gradually we will shift towards active exercises. So tummy time is the excellent way of giving passive exercises to starting from a baby of as early as 0 month. Means immediately after birth, you can start giving tummy time to the baby. Explain the parents about tummy time, what exactly it is, and then ask them to put the child on its tummy for a long period of time and in various positions. This chart shows all the positions, and if you want, I will post this chart to you. So we will start with tummy time and gradually we'll move towards active physiotherapy. Now this video is very long, so I will share with you and you put on social media. This is very long video, but that shows how to move from passive physiotherapy towards active physiotherapy. Now PMT, perceptual motor skills. I have already explained you that it's a perception means taking. To perceive means to take, to receive from the environment. So that part is done by our senses. So the process of taking in through our senses, then organizing, interpreting and processing in brain, and executing the command through body movement is gross and fine motor movement. So this is perceptual motor skills. So these are big names, and it's good to use big names when you are doing something professionally. But perceptual motor skills is nothing but by using your senses, by using your brain to interpret whatever our body execute is all about perceptual motor skills. So anything we do, if I point something, it is perceptual motor skill, because my sight has seen something, my brain has interpreted, and now my body is showing something. So catching, throwing, zipping, writing, pointing, everything is perceptual motor skill. So this is a short explanation about perceptual motor skill. Then what is neurodevelopmental therapy? So as I showed you a slide where there was a comparison between milestones, achieving milestones, a child with Down syndrome achieving milestones and a typical child achieving milestones. So a child with Down syndrome ultimately achieves all the milestones, but a little later, one thing. And second thing, the finishing part, the final part. Suppose the child has learned walking, but the gait part, that need a little bit more finishing, that need to be finer. So working on the finer part after the child has achieved a motor milestone. Suppose a child has learned to stand. Now to stand on a cushion, maintaining the balance. So there comes neurodevelopmental therapy. So finer, the polishing of the achieved milestone is all about neurodevelopmental therapy. And for persons with Down syndrome, it mainly focuses on body balance while doing any task. If you have seen that sensory video, unfortunately it was without audio, but there the child was while holding the bag, child was trying to balance his body. So that is what is neurodevelopmental therapy is all about. So this is perceptual and neurodevelopmental therapy, big word. Now this also I will post. There is one video of Veda. She is 4-year-old. Beautiful video of neurodevelopmental therapy. If you want, I will post. Then foot arch. It is very, very mandatory. It is very integral part of to advise a foot arch to a child with Down syndrome the moment child starts weight bearing. So concluding everything, we will focus on stability exercise, corrective positioning. After we shift from passive to active, these would be our area of focus: stability exercise, corrective positioning, stair climbing, yoga, hydrotherapy, treadmill training, bicycling, tummy time, perceptual motor therapy we already discussed, sensory integration training, and strength building would be maybe on specific muscle training, targeting weak muscle. If all the other muscles are fine, strong enough, but some specific muscles are not strong enough, if you find them weaker, then specific muscle training, then weight training and endurance training. Weight training for a shorter period of time but high in intensity. Endurance training would be low in intensity but would be for a longer period of time. So physiotherapy should be continued. Once the child has achieved all the major motor milestone, the child had started running and climbing and jumping and everything, then also it is mandatory for a grown-up or a teen or an adult with Down syndrome to continue one or the other type of physical training. May it be brisk walking, maybe the teen is involved in some kind of play like basketball or football or gymnastics or swimming or anything, bicycling, water aerobics, dancing, Zumba, swimming, running, tennis. It is mandatory for a child, a teen, or an adult with Down syndrome to continue any kind of physical activity. It is a must for them. This is a video for treadmill walk. I'm skipping all the videos. All the videos are very beautiful, but we don't have that much time. So now last part is parent therapist. Till now we were discussing parent with therapist with doctor. To now there will be a shift from parent plus therapist plus doctor to parent plus teacher plus therapist plus doctor. I know you people have nothing to do with schooling, but be a support to a child with Down syndrome, because it is very difficult for them to get admission in regular schools, and the chances of them going into depression are very, very, very high. And that's why I included the last slide. Even though schooling part is not your cup of tea, you have nothing to do with it, but as a part of society, as a responsible citizen of society, you just support whenever you come across a child, a parent struggling to get admission for her son or daughter in regular school, because depression is a major and burning issue for teens and young adults with Down syndrome. Thank you. And I rushed because I wanted to come to the last slide. So thank you.
Hello. Yes, madam. Wonderful session, wonderful informative session. But madam, we have just one question left. So may I ask one question?
Yes, no. Go ahead.
Yes, madam, is there any, like right now we all know about this COVID situation. So is there any association of COVID and the adult Down syndrome or Down syndrome conditions? So is there any association?
No. Directly, no, it's not associated in any way. It's as good as a person who is having low, because their immune system is weak. Compared to typical population, they have a bit lower immunity. So whatever happens with a person with comorbidities, with diabetes and hypertension, and they are, we all know that they are at higher risk. Similarly, if a child with Down syndrome gets infected with coronavirus, maybe the symptoms would be a little more, maybe the chest involvement and everything would be a bit intense. Otherwise, there is no direct relation. And whatever happens, that happens just because of the low immune system.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much for this wonderful information, madam. So from the whole Parul University, we are very grateful to give your time to us and giving this much information. Thank you. Thank you so much, madam.
And my purpose was to sensitize also to youth, because I think they all are students. So sensitizing the youth is a major, it's my major agenda. People are unaware about the strength of persons with Down syndrome. They are doing wonderful, provided they get all the therapies in time. They get good physician, they get good therapists, they get inclusive environment. They have people, encouraging people around. They do wonders.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you. And if anyone having any doubt, they can directly contact with your website, or they can directly see you in a blog. So, and yes, simultaneously Vishal Wind Foundation, which they are working for the people, that association is also helpful for us. So we are very grateful from the Parul University. Thank you so much, madam.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, Rushi Bhai from
Thank
Vishal Foundation. So are we concluding the session now?
Yes, madam. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Nina ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.